things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. She's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in luck, because here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, our weekend begins on Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Our weekend kicks off every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Dark Wolf's Den, starring yours truly, Jerry the Dark Wolf. But that's where the fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back every Thursday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show, starring AJ the Ripon Rabbit. He dives into the archives of vocal legend Art Bell and brings those stories up to date. So make sure that you spend your extended weekends with the Animals Radio, Jerry the Dark Wolf and AJ the Ripon Rabbit, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, every Wednesday through Sunday, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson with Reality Shifters and the International Mandela Effect Conference, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness, this is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. It is Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020, and tonight we're going to talk about a topic that is very much a challenge for me because I am not an expert by any means whatsoever. But I've done a lot of research and I think I've been able to put together enough information to make this a worthwhile show. A lot of us hear the word Schumann resonance, but don't really know exactly what it is or what's going on with it, or why it is so important to us, because it is absolutely 100% extremely important to us as humans, which we will find out why in a little bit. But first, today in history. On this day in 1859, we had what was called the Carrington event, where a super powerful geomagnetic storm was released by the sun that directly hit the earth, which set ablaze many telegraph stations at the time. If a solar storm of this magnitude occurred today, it would cause widespread electrical disruptions, blackouts, and damage due to extended outages of the electrical grid. We would be sitting ducks if that happened today. And that was another Today in History. And interestingly enough, I couldn't have been more excited when I found this week's Today in History, because geomagnetic energy is exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. But let's start at the beginning. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because that's where the information starts to get messed up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start at the beginning, and the person that realized what the Schumann resonance even is.
An unknown scientist is about to make a discovery that should have changed everything. His name was Winifred Otto Schumann. On the day in question, he was teaching his students about the physics of electricity, how a sphere within a sphere can create electrical tension, and subsequently, a frequency. Schumann's class had struggled to understand the subject, so to make it easier, the professor instructed them to imagine the Earth as one sphere and the ionosphere as another. He then asked them to calculate the tension that would exist in between.
So far it's really simple. We've got the Earth, then we've got the ionosphere which surrounds the Earth. This would be the equivalent of a dome in this particular scenario. Mind you, not a solid dome per se, but it is a allegory or an analogy in this particular scenario, like I said.
Having no idea himself, Schumann also began to calculate.
Now, I'm not sure if you guys caught that little part right there or not. He told his students to calculate the tension between the ionosphere and the Earth, not even having done the calculations himself. So even he wouldn't have known if they did get the right answer. So he also started to calculate.
Eventually, he arrived at a frequency of approximately 10 hertz.
And the approximately 10 hertz part will be very, very important during this episode.
As incredible as it seemed to Schumann, our planet had a pulse.
A very steady, rhythmic pulse, just like a heartbeat. The planet itself literally has a heartbeat, but that is only the very, very beginning.
A measurable frequency that surrounded life on Earth.
And this pulse is actually created by the lightning that happens around the Earth all the time. As each lightning strike occurs, it sends out a wave of electromagnetic frequency. And as all these lightning strikes continue to occur, these waves tend to bounce off each other, and some of them combine, and they bounce off the ionosphere and the Earth and propagate between the two all the way around the Earth, which creates what is the Schumann resonance and the harmonics of the Schumann resonance. And we'll get into harmonics a little bit later, but that is what creates the Schumann resonance on the Earth, is the ionosphere and the Earth and the lightning strikes in between, creating a resonant frequency that bounces between the ionosphere and the Earth. Also, the ionosphere is pushed down towards the Earth at different times due to space weather, and at other times it's not so pushed down. So the cavity isn't always the same depth or size. It kind of varies how large it is, which varies on how loud the Schumann frequency is at any given time.
Although the professor was proud of his find, he didn't see it as a hugely significant one.
Little did he know at the time that this was actually an extremely significant find for mankind.
Especially as it was only published in a small science journal, confined to the back pages, under the heading of Schumann resonance.
And as we know, dogmatic science doesn't like giving up their positions, so if they do have to publish something that it goes against what they believe, they're just like the newspapers, will hide it at the very, very back corner of the page.
It would take several years and an incredible twist of fate before the professor would begin to realize the true importance of Schumann resonance.
Remember a moment ago when I said the almost 10 hertz will be very important? Well, here we go with this.
The discovery was remarkable. Schumann resonance wasn't just similar to the alpha waves of the human brain, it was identical.
At 7.83 hertz. But think about that for a second. The frequencies of the Schumann resonance are identical to brain waves. And again, this is only the beginning.
The brain's frequency which controlled our creativity, our performance, our stress, anxiety, and our immune system, had somehow tuned into the frequency of the planet.
Pretty much every system that is responsible for keeping us on a normal basis during waking life.
The pulse of the Earth had become the pulse of life itself.
Humans are so tuned into the Earth's frequency that if we get away from it from any amount of time, we actually show physical and mental distresses, as was learned by NASA astronauts the first astronauts to go into space had a lot of physical and mental issues and illnesses and things like that. And NASA finally realized when they put a Schumann resonance generator on the craft going into space with the astronauts on it, that the issues were suddenly immediately squashed. And we'll discuss more of that here in just a little while. But when we talk about the frequencies and the Schumann frequencies, let's really define what we're talking about. What is a frequency?
The frequency of a wave is measured in hertz. This refers to the number of oscillations the wave makes each second. Frequencies range from a billionth the size of an atom to the length of the universe itself. In theory, frequencies are infinite, so ultimately endless. If this was a coincidence, it was nature's most spectacular.
And there's that word coincidence again. You know, over here we don't care much for that word. It really makes these old wolf ears pop up, because when you start hearing about coincidences of nature and the universe itself, you really have to take notice. And another strange coincidence is the Schumann resonance, like I said, is 7.83 hertz. However, that's not the full story. There are actually a couple other harmonics of the Schumann resonance, from 14 hertz to 22 to 36, and I want to say all the way up to 60 hertz as of 2019. That is the highest they've seen it hit. But that does not necessarily mean that the Schumann resonance is rising, but we'll get to that in a moment. The intriguing coincidence, if you will, and again, we don't like that word over here, but what is very intriguing about the information of the harmonics of the Schumann resonance is the fact that it is entrained with the same harmonics that are used in different brain waves.
Whether you're in a deep sleep, taking a test, or watching a YouTube video, your brain is abuzz with activity. There are millions of electrical pulses passing between neurons that are sending messages to each other. When those signals spread, clusters of neurons start getting feedback from others, and networks of cells synchronize their firing. It becomes a repeating cycle or rhythm, a brainwave, or as neuroscientists call them, neural oscillation.
Not only is the brain creating brain waves at all times, we are also emitting these brain waves into the environment at all times.
That organized electrical activity is strong enough to be detected by electrodes on the scalp with a technique called electroencephalography, or EEG. And that's allowed us to study brainwaves to try to make sense of the brain. While things are still pretty mysterious, lately we've been making strides to link brainwaves to things like consciousness, memory, and maybe even certain diseases. Now, brainwaves aren't one size fits all. There are actually lots of different electrical patterns defined by their frequency.
All right, guys, pay attention. This is where things get really important.
They're measured in cycles, or the number of times the neurons are firing per second. Brainwaves also vary in amplitude, with lower amplitudes as they speed up. There are 5 main types, and there's no hard and fast rules about their functions. But generally, the higher frequency the wave, the more alert and awake you are. So the slowest of these 5 waves, which are of relatively high amplitude, are delta waves.
Once again, the slower they are, the higher the amplitude. So the delta brain waves would be at 1 to 3 hertz, but a high amplitude. And we'll discuss the difference there in just a little bit.
They're typically linked with deep sleep. Slightly faster are theta waves, which are often associated with daydreaming or meditation.
These are between 4 and 7 hertz in the brain and are just a little more quiet than the delta brainwaves, a little lower amplitude.
The next step up are alpha waves. These are common when you're awake, but relaxed, like when you still have your eyes closed.
Alpha brain waves are between 8 and 12 hertz in the brain, and they're just a little bit quieter than the previous ones. However, these are when, like she said, you are relaxed, kind of laying down and daydreaming, picturing a beautiful beach scene or something. That would be a lot of alpha brain waves being produced.
Beta waves are even higher frequency and lower amplitude.
And that's beta waves, not to be confused with theta waves that we spoke of just a moment ago. The beta waves are 13 to 38 hertz, a little more quiet than the others, and associated with mental intellectual activity and outwardly focused concentration. This is basically the alertness level you're at during any given waking moment.
and seem to happen when you're awake and thinking about something. The smallest, fastest oscillations are gamma waves.
Gamma waves are between 39 and 42 hertz and are the fastest yet the quietest of the brain waves and modulate perception and consciousness.
They tend to be around when you're deeply focused on something. Now, even though we talk about beta waves when you're in class or delta waves when you're sleeping for simplicity's sake, the reality is that your brain is abuzz with all different frequencies of waves. It's just that certain ones are more dominant at any given moment, depending on what you're doing and how you're feeling. If you're chilling at the pool and sometimes closing your eyes to bask in the sun, you probably have a lot of alpha and theta going on.
And remember, these brain waves, they control every function within your body, including the way you think, act, and feel at any given moment.
But there's still some beta waves in the background. It's not like your brain has the exact same wave frequencies throughout the whole thing. If you look at the readings from individual electrodes on an EEG, you can see that different regions of the brain are more commonly linked with certain waves. Alpha waves, for instance, are usually strongest at the back of the brain in the occipital lobe, which handles vision. One of the amazing things about brain waves is that these common frequencies are remarkably similar across different species, like cats, bats, and us. But at the same time, they might be very different between individuals.
And I find it a little less remarkable that everybody is entrained on the same frequencies, considering we all live within the same super frequencies on the Earth itself.
Some neuroscientists have even proposed that a snapshot of all the waves going on in a brain could be used to identify a person, like a fingerprint. So in some ways, measuring brain waves could be very powerful. Like, I can probably guess the moment you open your eyes just by looking at when your alpha waves drop off.
So in theory, the Schumann resonance would affect directly the brain waves that we are producing. Equally, though, the brain waves being produced might also affect the environment. For instance, on 4/4/20, the April 4th of this year, there was a worldwide meditation done. And interestingly enough, at the exact same time that the meditation was happening, on a worldwide scale, mind you, the Schumann resonance frequency got very, very loud for the entire time that the thing was going on. And what I mean by got loud was the amplitude got really, really high. The chart that most people look at, that green chart, was completely white for quite a few hours while this event occurred, interestingly enough. But there is a direct tie, even scientifically, between the Schumann resonance frequency and the human body.
So what did all this mean? It wasn't long before somebody tried to find out. His name was Rutger Weaver, an acclaimed scientist from the Max Planck Institute. In the early 1960s, the professor constructed an underground bunker in order to examine the circadian rhythms of man. The circadian rhythm is the day-night cycle that is engraved into all life. Over a 30-year period, the professor conducted experiments in which student volunteers would spend several weeks at a time living in the bunker, completely shielded from the natural resonances of the Earth.
So just like the astronauts from NASA that we were talking about earlier, and I know that not very many people in this community or that listen to this show trust NASA, don't worry, I am right there with you. However, it's validating some information that NASA did say, so let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater now. So underground, these guys were completely away from the ionosphere and the Earth. They were away from any Schumann resonance that they could be experiencing. So what would happen in this situation?
In his results, Weaver noted some astonishing findings. He discovered that when Schumann resonance was filtered out of the bunker, the students' physical and mental health would suffer.
Again, just like we heard with the astronauts earlier.
He took students down there. He didn't trust to do it with ill or old people. He took young students down there because he knew, Weaver knew that there would be an effect.
And though one could question the experiment at all because the experimenter knew there would be some kind of effect. At least he did try to negate it with using younger people as opposed to ill or older people or people that might be at risk for whatever reason.
So obviously underground you don't have Schumann resonance. You only have the transverse magnetic fields from in the earth. So by putting them underground, they started feeling sick, having headaches. Their circadian rhythm was completely upset.
I find that just absolutely amazing that the circadian rhythm and all these things went on and were upset the moment they were away from the Schumann resonance frequency. And I even dare to guess that perhaps their body was actually transferring to a different frequency or rhythm, maybe a more natural rhythm to the human than that of Earth, but that is only speculation.
The interesting thing was, when he just introduced the 7.8 Hertz frequency with a magnetic pulse generator, that immediately stopped.
Weaver would secretly introduce the 7.83 frequency to the bunker via a man-made transmitter. Each time he did so, he noted the ill effects suffered by the volunteers either disappeared or decreased. Their stress, headaches and emotional distress was reduced, and their sense of well-being was restored. All by the introduction of Schumann resonance.
And that is absolutely huge. That means either we need the Schumann resonance at any and all times, or the body actually becomes something else, is a different Schumann resonance that it actually resonates with naturally that isn't found on Earth, but as long as we are within Earth, we are sated, if you will, because it's enough like what it might be elsewhere. Just again, speculation.
Weaver's research had revealed an incredible connection between human health and the natural frequency of the planet. And in 2011, groundbreaking research suggested something even more impressive, that Schumann resonance could be connected to the beginnings of life itself.
And what I'm going to read now is from an article in Live Science. It says, in most vertebrates and invertebrates, there is a constant background cellular electrical activity, often coursing through the nervous system, with a small frequency range from 5 to 45 Hertz. A new study published in the journal International Journal of Biometeorology notes with extremely low frequency ranges overlap with natural vibrations in the atmosphere caused by lightning. What we've been talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the Schumann resonance. It continues. About 20 years ago, we started to discover that many biological systems, from the simplest of organisms like zooplankton in the oceans to our brains, have electrical activity in exactly the same frequency range as that produced by global lightning activity. We think that on evolutionary timescales, life forms may have used what nature has given them and have somehow either synchronized to those frequencies or adapted to them. And I dare argue that human life may very well have adapted to these frequencies opposed to grown with the earth with them. And there's a lot of arguments of why we might not be from the earth, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show, guys. We're here to talk about the Schumann resonance. And ladies and gentlemen, that music means we've got to go ahead and take a network break right here. So you guys sit right there, and we'll be back with the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den show and the Schumann Resonance Challenge after these messages. Don't you touch that dial.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Sex in the City? Nope. Interview with a Vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? Tweeze in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect. Unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the heck? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver, no way, Jose. I remember before in the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say you misremembered and call us bat crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela Effect flow. Mandela Effect in the house. What in the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, yay! American Family Publishers, never heard of them until now. This Mandela Effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope, wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution? Cause the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution. Mandela Effect in the house. Crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. Oh wait, Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the L? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy.
Anyhow, that was Juanito 1975. Are you enjoying the start to your weekend? I know I am. Hi everybody, it's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. If you're enjoying tonight's look at the Schumann Resonance here on the Dark Wolf's Den Show with host Jerry Hicks, then please make sure to thumb up that video. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. Jerry kicks off the weekend right every Wednesday night, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and then we dive through the rabbit hole all the way to Sunday. I'll be back again tomorrow, Thursday, September 3rd, for a look at extremely sensitive perception, ESP. What is it like having extremely sensitive perception? Some may even call it extra sensory perception. In my terms, I'm going to refer to it tomorrow night as extremely sensitive perception. And can all of us harness the ability to do it? Tune in tomorrow, September 3rd, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Then Friday, September 4th, bad habits. Can they be broken? Understanding strange and bad habits. That's our focus, Friday, September 4th, starting at 7 p.m. Then, the first weekend of the month, that's right, Saturday night, our Mandela Monthly with co-host Moneybag73 as we dive once again down the rabbit hole of the Mandela effects with special guest Brian Haggerty. Now, he is a speaker, an educator, an author, and host of the podcast, Our Fascinating World. So I'm looking forward to Saturday's Mandela Monthly. Mark it on your calendars, be here or be square. Of course, all shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then we'll end out the weekend together Sunday, September 6th, with a look at the fantastic fun show. That's right, will CSFL champion remain seated on the throne as the Fantastic Fun King? Or perhaps will somebody knock him off and take the crown? That's going to be interactive family game night Sunday, September 6th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. It's going to be an awesome weekend right here on the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Make sure that you join our mail list at riponrabbithole.com. We'll send you out that weekend schedule every Wednesday morning. We're going to return back now to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den as he howls at the Schumann Resonance. That's tonight, September 2nd, on the Dark Wolf's Den Show, right here exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio. Stick around, a lot more to come.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's topic is the Schumann resonances. And, you know, we were challenged to do this. I had a couple people request that I do this, and then AJ the Ripon Rabbit over there issued a challenge. That's right, he challenged me to do this show on the Schumann resonances because we talk about it so much in the community, but not a lot of us understand exactly what it is and exactly what's going on. So having this understanding can really give us a better understanding of perhaps theories and reasons why they may be connected to different phenomenon that we have witnessed. And we'll get into more of that here in just a moment. But first, I want to do a bit of a recap because we have covered a lot of information in a very, very short amount of time. So we're going to do just a quick recap on a very simplified explanation of what the Schumann resonance is, or at least how it is caused.
Schumann resonance, as you know, it's a phenomenon of the standing waves existing in the relatively narrow gap between the surface of the Earth and the ionosphere. Due to the active lighting activity, we have a permanent, it's about like 50 strikes a second.
At any given second across the entire Earth, it's estimated there's roughly 50 lightning strikes going on every and any second.
We have a permanent source of electromagnetic waves going inside this gap until they got absorbed. But some portion of this electromagnetic wave, they find a way through the whole gap and create a set of standing waves. The diagram you see to the right, this diagram was experimentally recorded in Antarctica, where the level of electromagnetic pollution is low.
Now, there's another great question. What is the electromagnetic pollution around us caused by our electronics that we're carrying everywhere at all times now? What is all this electronic pollution doing to both our brain waves as well as the Schumann resonance data?
And it's about like 8, 14, 20, 26, 32, and so on hertz, according to the formula, which gives you a rough example of these frequencies. But are they stable? They are not. So every peak at a particular mode frequency in the harmonics, they vary at about 1-2 hertz both up and down. And that's the live monitoring of the frequencies of the Schumann resonance in Tomsk, Siberia.
And we have included this link down below. This is the link that I use most often to read the Schumann resonance data.
They do it online. You can check it yourself, and you see how they go up and down. That's the first 4 harmonics. Why is it happening? If you look at the graph to the left, you see that the level of ionosphere is moving closer to the Earth or further from the Earth.
Which we explained earlier, that the weather from space, the different pressures and energies coming in from the sun when an electromagnetic sunspot is shot out at the Earth, when we have a CME event like the Carrington event was, except for that was a superstorm event. We've not seen another like that in the world, thank God. But these different solar events push down on the ionosphere and sometimes manipulate the shape of it, whether it's way up and has a large resonance, or is really, really close to the ground and has a lower resonance.
Which create the gap is like breathing space, which translates the Schumann resonance frequency back to the Earth. It's like a space weather. So let's jump from the subject of the Schumann resonance to the brain waves. Because when Otto Schumann first theoretically predicted the existence of Schumann resonance, it was 1950s. About the same time, neurophysicists started to explore brain, electrical activity of the brain. You see that placement of the electrode on the scalp.
So scientifically speaking, the Schumann resonance recordings are actually very, very new science. It's not like we've got hundreds of years under our belt of this. If it was only brought about around the 1950s, then that's been, 50 years or so? No, I'm sorry, 70 years.
Of a person, and to the left, at a standard internationally accepted placement of the electrode. And then when they recorded all these electrical signals, probably you all know about that, according to the order how they were discovered, alpha, beta, gamma, and delta, Greek alphabet, they found the different frequencies of this electrical rhythm responsible for different functions of the brain, from alpha when we're waking up, to beta when we're thinking, up to the gamma meditative state or state of the brain where all these lower frequencies functions combine together. But if we place these two graphs together and you see all these frequencies, you see it's not a coincidence. It just may be an indication that our brain, using these Schumann frequencies, like a staircase, step by step, moving our consciousness from a sleeping state of alpha and delta rhythm to higher active gamma rhythm.
Another really neat facet of this is that it follows the sun. The high points of the day follows the sun wherever it is in a particular area. So if it's the high point in America, it would probably be the high point of the day with the sun. And it goes back to the idea of the circadian rhythms and the waking-sleeping cycle, and how most people are awake during the day, and their cycles, their waking cycles usually follow the day. Through the day, they feel more and more tired as the cycles change, and as it ramps back down to the end of the day, they go back towards into meditative and then sleep state. So the reason, again, this is, I believe, possible is because with the sun and the different weather patterns in an area, you're going to have lightning in some areas, you're not going to have in others. And the sun sometimes does cause thunderstorms. Trust me, live in the South for very long enough, you know that really quick in the summertime. So these different factors add up to contribute to the Schumann resonance every day, and it follows, like I said, the circadian rhythm pattern of the regular day-night cycles of people, generally speaking. Of course, I have night-day cycles myself personally, but that's a whole different, type of ball game right there. We're talking about most people, generally speaking.
Okay, so what's going on there up there? So that's measurements made by the Russian satellite Chibis, exploring the Schumann resonance frequencies all over the globe. And that particular graph was taken over the Japan, if you see to the left. There's all these power lines. And to the right, you see frequencies, including Schumann resonance frequencies, which are not noticeable. But what is noticeable? Power lines, 60 hertz and 50 hertz lines. Japan is a lucky country. They use two standards, like European 50 hertz and American 60 hertz. And two peaks, the most distinctive peaks. So it looks that all industrial activity, all this electromagnetic fields, they mask Schumann resonance frequencies, which we now know are beneficial for us.
And once again, it goes back to the question I asked just a little bit ago. What is the issue we are going to have if we introduce too much electronic pollution? Can we really sound out or scream down, if you will, the Schumann resonance and mask it enough to the point where it is not being able to be detected by the human body, and therefore could we be causing ourselves more problems than we're creating helpful solutions for?
We're surrounded by all these electrical appliances going back to Earth. Are they harmful?
What do you guys think? Living in a soup of radio waves and electromagnetic pollution 24/7, is it harmful to us? Do you think it might have some negative effects? Maybe the randomness of the waves propagating in ways that are not necessarily as healthy for the human body as the Schumann resonance, and possibly even to a point that it drowns out the Schumann resonance frequencies. Do you think this could be beneficial by any means, or could be good, or do you think this is a dangerous idea?
We know in our lab that they are, but a lot of
dangerous, he means. In the lab, they know that they are dangerous. However,
discussion about maybe they are not. I'm just going to present you one graph. It was published about 20 years ago by the professor Neil Cherry from New Zealand, and he collected data about childhood cancer around Sutter Tower in San Francisco.
I would bet 10 to 1 that the chart shows a steady upward movement.
From the 1973 to 1988, all cases were combined together for children younger than 21 years old, and then they put all this data on a graph where you see to the left the number of cases, it was right, you see the distance from the tower. The closer you are to the tower, the more cases of cancer.
Now, is anybody here actually surprised by that data? Go ahead and raise your paw. Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you're actually surprised by that data. Or go ahead and put a 2 if you kind of figured that's what would happen.
You can make conclusions yourself. So in our lab, we're working with Yuri for 35 years, but I moved to Oregon 5 years ago. And we started on working on these devices probably 6-7 years ago. Is it possible to do something to counteract this potentially harmful effect? And the device, which is we called EMF transformer.
And do not take this as an endorsement from me of any product whatsoever. I am merely presenting information to you, but I promise it is leading somewhere.
That's to the right, you see, was created. Actually, it's no more than a piece of plastic, polyurethane, if to go to more specifics. But it was irradiated, we call it infused, in the chamber, which Yuri just talked about. And they were placed on the phones, on the computers, anywhere we think of a possible electromagnetic radiation. First samples of this device were sent to Arizona to Dr. Fannin. He's a specialist in quantitative EEG for his evaluation. He used the pilot study on 5 men, 5 women of different ages, normal health, and then that diagram was created. That's the normal state of our brain according to EEG.
And in tonight's show notes, you will see these photos. The first one here is the green brain that you will see over there.
Green is good. If it goes to red, it says about hyperactivity. If it goes to deep blue, it's a suppressed brain.
So green is good, red is hyperactive, and blue is suppressed. Got it.
So then a telephone was placed, you see on the picture to the left. And then you see hyperactive frontal lobe electrode placement.
And this would be the second picture, the left side of the picture with the red in the front left-hand corner.
My mother told me never show on yourself, but okay, I can do an exception. And to the right, you see the picture when this sticker, this plastic, was placed on a phone, and the brain goes to normal activity.
Again, I am by no means endorsing any product, but if this is true, and this actually is the difference in your brain when a brainwave change around electronics occurs, how often are you around electronics? What is this doing to your brain? Is having a hyperactive brain a good idea or a bad idea? I don't know, but I think it would lead to anxiety and more worry and stress and just negative emotions, fear, things like that. And how easy would it be to manipulate the amount of signal or the power of the signal coming in to really mess with somebody? Or is the amount of signal going to eventually get to the point where it's going to be disastrous to humans because of the amount of frequency in it is cutting us off from the Schumann resonance? And we've heard that causes depression, sickness, headaches, a lot of really bad effects. And we also see these effects within people on a natural and a normal basis. There are some people that are really, really, really sensitive to electromagnetic interference, and I would also assume they would be more sensitive to the Schumann resonance interference or interference of the Schumann resonance being there. Now, I can tell you from the Mandela effect research that I personally have been a part of with Chick and SMQ and a guy named Jim Johnson, and forgive me, buddy, for saying it on the air. At least I hope that's your name on YouTube only. But anyway, I cannot stress this enough how interesting this is. I can tell you, like I said, from personal experience, that there is a specific waveform, a signature waveform that shows up within the Schumann resonance data. And I've done information about it in previous videos on the Dark Wolf's Den YouTube channel over here. So you guys might want to go back later on and watch that. But what we found is a specific signal in the Schumann resonance data. And every time this signal occurs, we suddenly see a large uptick in the waves of Mandela effect that occurs. So we see a rise in the wave trough and then a lowering as the signal disappears and it changes. Usually within a couple weeks it tends to go back down. But what we know now that it's about space weather and frequencies going on around the Earth, and these frequencies can easily be manipulated like machines like HARP. HARP is actually made to use the ionosphere to try to do over-horizon communication, which is impossible by standard communication means. But if you can heat up the ionosphere somehow, according to them, then you can actually do over-the-horizon communications. What you can also do is gain weather control and human control, because if you're messing with the ionosphere, then you're messing with what's creating the resonance to begin with, and manipulating that is not going to be a good idea in the end. That is going to bound to be having some effects on us as human beings. But we definitely have seen this specific pattern show up, this specific waveform within the data of the Schumann resonance information, and every single time this waveform shows up, there is what the community, the Mandela effect community, calls a shift, or a bunch of things in reality suddenly have changed all at once. And I can attest to this multiple times, because for a little while there were only 3 of us that knew that this signature existed. And every time we would see it, we would verify it with each other, and the entire community would verify it to us without us saying a word. And it was either a really odd, that word we don't like here, coincidence, that it happened every single time, or there's actually something more to it. What more? Why is it happening? What has it got to do with the Mandela effect? Now, after what I've learned about the Schumann resonance, I am more confused than I was before. But I do know that it's got to do with frequency, and our buddy, our favorite scientist in the world, Nikola Tesla, of course, second only to Einstein. But anyway, Nikola Tesla was famous for saying 3, 6, and 9 are what you need to understand the universe. This could be frequency, harmonics, and resonance. I also believe he was quoted as saying, but I don't want to misquote Tesla of all people. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you guys have learned something along the way tonight. I know I've actually learned quite a good little bit along the way. I appreciate this challenge, AJ. I hope we have done this topic well. But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think it is something going on with the Schumann resonance that is a little unexplained by science? The harmonics raising, even in 2019, it was reported to 60 hertz. Is there something connected with the Mandela effect? Is there a reason that they're messing with the ionosphere to mess with humans' brains? And could it have something to do with what's going on in the world today and the amount of stress felt by the world? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the Schumann resonance, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for this week's episode of the Dark Wolf Sten Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the show may be ending, but the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right. This weekend, we've got a lot of awesome fun coming up for Thursday through Sunday with AJ the Ripon Rabbit over there. That's right. Thursday night, he's going to be talking about extremely sensitive perception. That's right. Then Friday night, he'll be talking about bad habits. I know I've got a couple of those, but whether I consider them bad or not, that's a whole nother story. Then my favorite weekend is this weekend, guys. As you guys know, the first of the month is the most fun you can have on radio. On Saturday, we have a very special Mandela Monthly with a guest speaker, educator, author, and host of the podcast Our Fascinating World, Bitcoin, Litecoin educator, investor, ladies and gentlemen, Brian C. Haggerty will be joining the boys, Mr. AJ and Mr. Moneybags, here on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we're going to be listening to and interacting with the most interactive game show on the radio. That is the Fantastic Fun Show. The Fantastic Fun Show. And again, I like Fantastic Fun Show, huh? What about you guys? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me. My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And I'm going to go over to the RiponRabbithole.com. That is RiponRabbithole.com. Over there, you're going to find every bit of fun that I can think of anyway. You can go hang out with me in the VIP lounge over there. That's right. Just go over there to the ripinrabbithole.com. Click on the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right. Click on that and scroll about halfway down the page. You're going to find the VIP entrance. Come on in there, guys. Hang out with us. We'd be absolutely thrilled to have you there. We've got people that turn off their cam and mic all the time. You will have to give cam and mic permission, but don't worry, you can turn that off very, very quickly and just sit there and hang out with us and chat in the text chat if you like. And ladies and gentlemen, this morning over there, I gotta say, I seen something incredible. I seen that David Blaine ascension stunt with a couple of us back there, and that was absolutely incredible, guys. Mind-boggling. Also, speaking of mind-boggling, we've got all kind of mind-boggling news stories over there. It's all kind of fun. And if you want to send us a shout-out like you heard at the beginning of the show, that is really simple to do. You go on down to the bottom of every page on the ripinrabbithole.com. Hit the big red button. That's right. Send us 30 seconds of audio, and we'll get that shipped out on the air for you, as we did with Cynthia and Propagate. Guys, we have a new show coming up, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories about ghosts. Do you have a story where you've encountered a ghost or a ghostly tale that you would like us to hear? Share it along. If it's true, we want to tell it on True Tales Tuesday, coming up soon, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said, make sure you come back Thursday through Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for all of the amazing weekend fun with AJ the Ripon Rabbit and ripinrabbithole.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and on behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit and everybody at Ripon Common Sense Radio, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. Bye, everybody. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That howl means your weekend has begun. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. If you enjoyed tonight's look at the Schumann Resonance with Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. Perhaps another day added to the weekend. True Story Tuesdays. I love it. I'll be back again tomorrow night, Thursday, with Extremely Sensitive Perception. What's it like having extremely sensitive perception, or ESP as some may call it? And can all of us harness that ability? Tune in tomorrow night, Thursday, September 3rd, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Then Friday, September 4th, Bad Habits, Understanding Strange and Bad Habits, and we'll look at how they can be broken. That's Friday, September 4th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. And guess what? It's the first weekend of the month, everybody. You know what that means. Saturday, September 5th, co-host Moneybag73 will be here for another installment of the Mandela Monthly. Special guest Brian Haggerty will be here. Speaker, educator, author, host of podcast Our Fascinating World. It's going to be open lines that night. We're going to take your calls as well as we end out the weekend then, Sunday, September 6th, with a fantastic fun show. Will CSFL champion remain seated on the throne as the Fantastic Fun King? Tune in to Interactive Family Game Night Sunday, September 6th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Can you believe it? The weekend has begun. Let the games begin. Hey, if you haven't done so already, please make sure that you hop on over to ripinrabbithole.com and visit the VIP 24/7 Backstage Lounge. I'm going to head there myself, sit back and chill in my favorite chair, and talk to the gang, because for many of you, the conversation ends here For the Ripon Rabbits, it's just beginning in the 24/7 VIP chat lounge. We had an awesome watch party this morning for David Blaine in there. It was fantastic. Ascension. What a cool trick. Stay tuned as we look forward to bringing him on as a special guest very soon. Well, your weekend has officially begun. And until we meet again, I'm AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here. 'Cause no one's ever home. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in luck, because here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, our weekend begins on Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Our weekend kicks off every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Dark Wolf's Den, starring yours truly, Jerry the Dark Wolf. But that's where the fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back every Thursday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show, starring AJ the Ripon Rabbit. He dives into the archives of vocal legend Art Bell and brings those stories up to date. So make sure that you spend your extended weekends with the animals of radio, Jerry the Dark Wolf and AJ the Ripon Rabbit, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, every Wednesday through Sunday, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Let's do it.
Hi there, I'm AJ, host of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. Our weekend kicks off Wednesdays with
Dark Wolf's Den.
Then we push through the weekend Thursday night, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and return again every Friday night at the same time. The weekend heads on into Saturday, and we end the weekend together Sunday nights. You'll want to join us the first weekend of every month as we dive down the rabbit hole of Mandela Effect with co-host Moneybag73 and our Mandela Monthly. So journey along with us as we dive through the rabbit holes together in the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole live shows. You can see our weekly schedule at the link listed in the description below. Thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live.